Virginia Gazette in Williamsburg. At a meeting of the freeholders and other inhabitants of the county of Culpeper in Virginia assembled on due notice at the courthouse of the said county on Thursday, the 7th of July, 1774, to consider the most effectual method to preserve the rights and liberties of America. Henry Pendleton, Esquire, moderator. Resolved that we will, whenever we are called upon for that purpose, maintain and defend His Majesty's right entitled to the crown of Great Britain and all other His dominions thereunto belonging, to whose royal person and government we profess all due obedience and fidelity.
Resolved that the right to impose taxes or duties to be paid by the inhabitants of this colony for any purpose whatsoever is peculiar and essential to the General Assembly in whom the legislative authority is verified. Resolved that every attempt to impose taxes or duties by any other authority is an arbitrary exertion of power and an infringement of the constitutional and just rights and liberties of the colony. And that we will at all times, at the risk of our lives and fortunes, oppose any act imposing such taxes or duties unless we are legally represented. And that the act of the British Parliament imposing a duty on tea to be paid by the inhabitants of the colonies upon importation is evidently designed to fix on the Americans those chains forged by them by a corrupt ministry.
Resolved that the late cruel and unjust acts of Parliament to be executed by force upon our sister colony Massachusetts and town of Boston is a convincing proof of the unjust and corrupt influence obtained by the British ministry and Parliament, and a fixed determination to deprive the colonies of the constitutional and just rights and liberties. Resolved that the town of Boston is now suffering in the common cause of the American colonies.
Resolved that an association between all of the American colonies not to import from Great Britain or buy any goods or commodities whatsoever except Negroes, cloths, salt, saltpeter, powder, lead, nails, paper ought to be entered into, and by no means dissolved until the rights and liberties of the colonies are restored to them and the tyrannical acts of Parliament against Boston are repealed.
Resolved that it is our opinion that no friend to the rights and liberties of America ought to purchase any goods whatsoever which shall be imported from Great Britain after a general association shall be agreed on, except such as before accepted. Resolved that every kind of luxury, dissipation, and extravagance ought to be banished from amongst us.
Resolved that the raising of sheep, hemp, flax, and cotton ought to be encouraged. Likewise, all kinds of manufactures by subscriptions or any other proper means. Resolved that the importing of slaves and convict servants is injurious to this colony, as it obstructs the population of it with freemen and useful manufacturers, and that we will not buy any such slave or convict servant hereafter to be imported.
Resolved that every county in this colony ought to appoint deputies to meet on the first day of August in the city of Williamsburg, then and there to consult upon the most proper means for carrying out these or any other resolutions which shall be judged more expedient and for the obtaining of peace and tranquility in America into execution.
Resolved that Henry Pendleton and Henry Field, Jr., Esquires, be appointed upon the part of the freeholders and inhabitants of this county to meet and consult with such deputies as shall be appointed by the other counties. Resolved, that the clerk submit these resolves to the press and request the printer to publish them without delay. By order of the meeting, John Jameson,